Hello, everyone, and welcome. I know we are a little bit later than we normally are, but we did that so we could accommodate Stacy's schedule this week. And we are so happy to have Stacy with us. As always, Stacy is part of the McDougall Starch Solution program. She is actually our advisor and was during the program and continues to be. And we are so happy to have her here with us today. And for those of you who don't know Stacy, I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself so that you know what she's all about.
All right. Thank you, Cheryl. Well, hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back with you. My name is Stacy Cross, and I work for the McDougall Health and Medical Center, and I work for the 12-day McDougall online program, as well as lots of other things that we have that we run over here at McDougall Land. Most recently, we have launched our Starch Solution community, and I will talk a little bit more about that today, but I am largely a moderator over there, and I also run our support calls. So we have a couple different alumni support opportunities for people who have gone through the 12-day McDougall program, and I run those. And then we have, like I said, the Starch Solution community, which now is going to be open to anyone who would like to participate in it. And I am part of a team that runs that. So it's a lot of fun. I love helping our patients get better results for their weight loss efforts and their health goals and all of that. So it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a mom of four boys, and my eldest son just got his driver's license. So we're like in a brand new world over here, and it's been wonderful and glorious. We're so proud of him. He's awesome. So yeah, that's about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'm here to answer your questions. And I have a few topics that I wanted to bring up too, and anything that you want to talk about, Cheryl, I'm game. So let's do this.
All right. So I see we're starting to get some people coming into the comments. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Stacy, please go ahead and put those in the comments. And let's just get started while we're waiting for that to happen. So Stacy usually comes back through after we've been on, and she answers any question that she sees that we might have missed in the comments. And actually, the last time that she was on, she realized that there was a comment that she missed. And so we're going to go ahead and let Stacy start out with that today and get us going on questions.
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, this comment was left on an old video. So a video that was like 3 times ago when I was here. But so I missed it. I went back through all of our old videos yesterday and just wanted to make sure that I hadn't missed anything. So I wanted to address this person's comment because I felt like, she is us. So hopefully this will be helpful to her. Hopefully she's listening, and to all of you. So Thriving Life 48 asked this question. Stacy, how can one stop fearing not knowing all the things? I have been weighing and measuring my food and tracking in chronometer for years. I would like to get to a point where I can trust myself not to overeat. I'm whole foods, plant-based, 5'2", 129 pounds. I would like to lose 9 more ego pounds. But if I can find a way to just trust my body and not fear weight gain, that would be okay too. Any suggestions? And then she says, let me add that 2 days a week I can eat when I'm hungry. The other 5 days are based on the clock. My job dictates my breaks and lunches. Okay. All right. So that's some great information from which to give some advice here. And what she's referring to here is how we say, our philosophy, what we teach our patients and everything is we want you to follow your body's natural hunger and fullness cues rather than some arbitrary, not necessarily fully obscure, random number of calories. But, we all know there are these calorie calculators online where you can put in your height and your weight and your age and your sex, and they tell you how many calories you're supposed to be eating per day. And most folks are doing that. They have been given a calorie number from a calculator or a dietitian or something, and they're trying to hit that number or stay under it every day. And that's how they're attempting to lose weight. Now, there are also programs that have taken that exact same basic tenet and formula and have tweaked it to make it seem like you're not counting calories. Some examples would be like carb counting, or keeping track of glucose, or whatever, it's glycemic index, or counting points, or things like that. But they're all essentially the same thing. You are counting and you're staying within a limit each day. And our philosophy is that no, that's not helpful. In fact, it most often sabotages you and backfires and does not result in lasting weight loss. We really believe and promote eating when you're hungry until you're comfortably full. Trusting getting back in touch with your body's natural hunger and fullness cues, and trusting those to tell you when and how much to eat. Now, so much of the advice that we give around that is based on the assumption that you are going to do your part and you're going to be eating the right foods, meaning you're going to be eating the McDougall way. You're going to be centering your meals on water-rich cooked starches like potatoes, beans, rice, cooked oatmeal, cooked pasta, corn, quinoa, barley, those types of things, okay? That's the center of your meals, with the addition of fruits and vegetables. And that those three categories of food, the whole water-rich cooked starches, fruits, and vegetables, are going to dominate your diet. Meaning you're eating like 90 to 95% of your diet in the forms that I just listed, okay? And then maybe using like very low-fat condiments, sauces, and dressings just for flavor and variety. Using potentially a little bit of salt or a little bit of sugar on the surface of your food to increase your enjoyment of it. But outside of that, we're not eating French fries and fast food burgers and drinking Cokes and all of that kind of stuff. So the question that she's asking here is about, how do I begin to trust my body? Because I've been weighing and measuring and counting and controlling for years, many, many years, which is most all of us who have had weight issues at any point in our lives. This is the conventional wisdom, is to count and measure and weigh and track, right? And so she's saying, I'd like to lose some more weight, but I also would really like to break free from constantly having to worry and think about it and track. So how do you do it? Now, there's more that I can launch into, and I will later on, about when people ask me, how do I do that? Because oftentimes the question that they're asking is, how do I do it? And the answer is simply, you do it. There isn't a how necessarily. And oftentimes we become so focused on learning how, or learning a better way how, that we don't ever actually do it. And doing it is what gets it done. So how do you trust your body, and how do you stop weighing, measuring, and counting? You do it. That's how. You just do it. It's a free fall. It's a trust fall. It can be scary. This is why people who are under the umbrella of the McDougall 12-day online program do better, because they have us in their ear constantly, week after week after week, going, no, you can trust the process. No, you don't need to change anything. You just need to keep going. Those of you who are out there kind of doing it on your own, winging it, you may not have a voice close to you, an expert voice whispering in your ear, trust the process. So you'll be your own voice. And you can be my voice. I'm telling you right now, you just have to do it. You just have to trust the process. Eat the foods that you're supposed to be eating, and the results will come. Now, piggybacking off of this question, which is a really good one, and I'm happy to expand on my answer if anybody needs any more clarity on this. But I also want to say now is the best time to be alive, because we just launched the McDougall Starch Solution Community, which is a brand new product that we just launched. And we're very excited about it. It's going really well so far. Initially, we invited only the alumni of the 12-day program to come and be a part of it. We are opening it up to the public. It is open to the public. We have not done yet a full marketing campaign to bring everybody in, because right now we're letting people trickle in because it's helpful to us not to be slammed with people all at once, and to really kind of work out some of the kinks when there are fewer people in the group. So it is open to the public though, and you can get to it on our website. I shared the link with Cheryl ahead of this call, and so she'll put it in the show notes, I believe. But you get to be a part of the McDougall Health and Medical Center and be under the umbrella of some of our support. It's still not as intensive of support as you get when you go through the 12-day program, because that is a medically supervised, very intensive program that still I highly, highly recommend for certain people, but it may not be something that everybody at that price point can do, because it's approximately $3,000 for the program. This Starch Solution Community may be a good solution for you if you fall into that category. You want more support, you want more camaraderie around this, you'd like to have a community, you'd like to have a place for accountability and things like that, but you aren't quite needing the full intensive medically supervised program, the 12-day program. The Starch Solution Community could be a really great in-between for you. It is a monthly or yearly based fee, and you can pay by the month and you can cancel at any time, or you can pay for a year all at once. And of course, that's a discounted rate to pay all at once for the year, but it's pretty reasonable. I believe the monthly fee, not remembering, but for non-alumni, meaning you never went through the 12-day online program, the yearly cost is $290 per year. I believe the monthly fee is $29 a month, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll pull it up. But anyway, so that's a really new, exciting new tool that you can use, and hopefully will be of great help to a lot of you guys. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to post them in the chat, and hopefully Cheryl can grab those out and I can answer them here for you. And if not, I can always answer comments later on after this call.
We've got some people chiming in saying hello, that they enjoy seeing you, Stacy. We've got Patty Armstrong says, "Hi, Stacy. This is Patty from Portugal." And then we've got Teresa Cases here. She says, "Thank you for hosting Stacy Cross. She is my favorite McDougall person." So she is my favorite McDougall person as well. Well, I shouldn't say that, because I like Tiffany too, because me and Tiffany got the Halloween thing going on. So it is like Tiffany's go season right now. She is in full 100%. Halloween swing. Full Halloween swing.
Yes.
We do have some questions coming in. Teresa Case says that the new Starch Solution Community is so worth the price. And we have a few questions. The first question we have is from Traylon, who asks, for people trying to minimize glucose spikes, which starch solution foods are best to focus on?
You're not going to have that problem if you follow this way of eating. So you need to be eating whole plant foods, whole, okay? So the big issue that could get you in trouble with blood glucose spike is when you have a refined version of that food. For example, if you were to eat white bread or a dinner roll or cereal rather than cooked whole grains. Even when you compare whole grain bread or whole grain pasta to its not whole counterpart, like white pasta or white bread, we see far fewer blood glucose spikes, generally speaking, in the population when you choose a more whole variety. But even better than whole grain bread or whole grain pasta, which are both processed, minimally processed, but they are processed, would be like oatmeal, whole grain oatmeal, or brown rice, or something like that. Brown rice may be a little better than white rice for blood glucose spikes. It varies from individual to individual. But having said that, if you are just a regular person and you think you don't have diabetes, maybe you're even like pre-diabetic, or maybe your A1C is slightly elevated or something like that, and you have concerns about blood glucose spikes, you can let go of those. You can let go, because your blood glucose is supposed to spike when you eat carbohydrates. That is how you get energy for fuel, for you to be able to do all the things you do all day long. So I would highly suggest, unless you have been diagnosed with diabetes and told by a doctor to wear a blood glucose monitor or to prick your finger or monitor your blood glucose in some way, you should not be doing it. Because the only thing that is good for is driving you crazy. I'm serious. Okay? I cannot tell you how many people have come through the program. They've got their little CGM, continuous glucose monitor. Yes. Now you had diabetes. Okay. So like that's different. But I have a lot of non-diabetics coming in with their CGM, and they're like chasing that blood glucose up, down, every which way. And we tell them, listen, as you lose weight, as you take in less dietary fat, and you let the fat that's all globbing up your cells be released and flushed out of your body, you will begin to become more insulin sensitive. And that issue will take care of itself. I have no idea what my blood glucose is moment to moment. I don't. But unless I'm having issues with like passing out or not enough energy or feeling incredibly anxious or something serious is going on, and I've been to the doctor and the doctor said, I think you have a blood glucose problem, we need to do this, I'm not going to worry about it, because your blood glucose is supposed to do this all day long.
I think the most important thing that you stated in that whole thing was everybody's different, and everybody's body's going to react differently to things. So you kind of have to figure out in the beginning, as you're doing this, look at it kind of like an experiment, and you kind of figure out what works for you. And when you find what works for you, then that's your go-to. That's your go-to thing that you do. And having a go-to has been really helpful for me after going through this program. I mean, I have if I start feeling like I'm kind of going off the rails a little bit, then I have my go-to, my brown rice and my vegetables. That's my go-to. And it always helps to get back in line just by having a few meals that are just my brown rice and vegetables. Now, I do have to say that as I've lost weight, I have had to watch how much rice I've been consuming. But I think that's just a product, Stacy, and maybe you can explain to me, but I think it's just a product of me not needing as much food. And if I have more than I need, then I kind of see a slight reaction for that. But I think it's because I don't need as much as I needed when I was, 40 pounds ago or 50 pounds ago.
When you say you have a slight reaction, are you talking about your blood glucose specifically?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes. Yeah. So it's okay. So as you lose weight and your body becomes smaller and lighter, you require fewer calories to do all exactly the same stuff you've always done. So, that's because it's not as difficult to move a lighter body through space. So, and your appetite does adjust in accordance with that. It does. So your appetite is down regulated slightly to coincide with that lower caloric need, right? But because of the modern food environment and the fact that we have been obese before, or overweight, many of us, that slight downregulation of the appetite is indiscernible to us. Okay? Again, here are the reasons why. One is that our modern food environment is such that all of our food comes with salt, sugar, oil, fat, something, seasonings, all kinds of stuff. And so even though we may feel full, our brain tells us keep eating because it tastes so good, and we don't know when the next chance we're going to get to eat might be. So you see the flavorings, the things that we add to increase enjoyment of our food and flavor of our food also can cause us to inadvertently overconsume calories. So that has to do with the modern food environment. The other thing is that we have a brain that has been obese or overweight. And science does not fully understand yet how that impact is permanent or how it changes once we go back to a regular weight. But it appears that if you have been overweight or obese before, your brain has changed a little bit. There's a difference between a brain of someone who has carried a bunch of excess weight and someone who hasn't before. And so those of us who have, we will probably always have at least some extent of a fight against overeating. Now, I would like to share a personal story. I don't have to do this, so just know this is very vulnerable. I wouldn't ordinarily share, but I love this audience so much. I adore you guys, and I want you to know that I'm one of you. And so I'm sharing this story for that reason. This past weekend, I went to Arizona with 3 of my brothers and their spouses just for a fun little sibling weekend. And it was wonderful. We had a great time. But I was observing, just because this is what I do, and I'm so interested in all of this, I was observing the way that I eat as opposed to how my siblings eat. So first of all, my siblings go out to eat often, very, very, very often, probably at least once a day. That's how often, right? And you guys, if you've been around this realm for any length of time, you know that we are always trying to minimize how often we go out to eat, right? Because we know that when you go out to eat, your food is automatically richer. It's automatically higher in fat, higher in oil, higher in sugar, higher in salt, higher in everything, and more delicious, so then you overeat it. If I went out to eat as frequently as my siblings do, I would immediately be way back up on my weight and probably higher than I ever was. So the reason why I was observing all of this was because I thought, what is the difference here? Like, what is the difference between the way they eat and the way I eat? And what I noticed was this. Every meal that we went out to, because we went out a lot this weekend, they always 100% of the time left food on their plate. And this old gal right here, 100% of the time got the clean plate award. Okay. And I really feel these siblings that I was with did not have a weight issue. And so I really feel that my brain handles food, especially highly palatable food, differently from theirs. And I think the only thing that I can chalk it up to is a history of being obese and overweight. And I think that's just the brain I'm working with now. Was I born with that brain? I don't think so. I think it's from my experience of carrying all the extra weight and everything. And from the fact that they have not. Now, these are my brothers, okay? So, like, get me around my sisters, different story, okay? Because they have experienced being overweight and obese like I have. For whatever reason, our brothers have been spared. And their spouses are doing really well too with their weight. So it was really fascinating to see that. Like they eat what they want, but they stop. When they start to feel full, they stop. And I don't have a stop when it comes to like extra highly palatable food. I don't stop until I hurt. As my husband says, is some people stop when they're full. I stop when I hate myself.
Wow.
Which is why we have to guard so carefully what we're actually eating. And we have to eat at home almost all the time because we know we're not likely to do that on our nice, delicious, whole plant foods that are seasoned very modestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And Susan Richardson also has a question for you, Stacy. Susan
Sure.
says, I cannot eat beans. What is a substitute for beans? I also have a minor intolerance for corn. Is there a substitute for corn?
Well, that is an interesting question. You don't need to substitute anything for either of those. So my question is more like, I have always follow-up questions. Why can't you eat beans? What do you mean when you say you can't eat beans? Like, are you allergic to them? Are you concerned about the digestive? Like, do you get, some poop issues? Do you get some gas? Like, I would want to know why first before I say, okay, yeah, do this instead. But you do not have to eat beans and you do not have to eat corn to be healthy. So you don't need to substitute them. You can just choose different starches like potatoes and rice and quinoa and barley and oatmeal and, cooked pasta, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if she
And
follows up with those answers, then
will
come
let you
back at
know.
me with it and I
I
can
will.
give
I
better
will.
advice.
I was looking now to see if it was there, but I don't see it yet. We've got lots of folks commenting on the new Starch Solution community. Wendy Cunningham says the Starch Solution community is definitely worth the money. Everyone is friendly and supportive. TS says, I'm really considering joining the new Starch Solution group. I have really fallen off the wagon and back on the eating processed, sugary, vegan foods. The pleasure trap is real for me. And Teresa, in comment to what we were talking about earlier, says, yes, it is an experiment of one. There are principles and guidelines to go by, and then we tweak it to what works best for us individually. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the McDougall. You have, you have these guardrails, and you stay with it. You figure out what works for you within those guardrails, where some other programs, I think people get like, they're like, well, you're supposed to be eating this. And it's like, well, I don't like that. Well, that's what you're supposed to be eating. Like, and with, you don't have that with the McDougall Starch Solution. There's every available starch and every available vegetable. I mean, all these things are available to you, and there's no one telling you, well, you can't eat that, because that's too much, so I feel like, you really do get a great base to go from with the McDougall solution. And that's the thing that I carry with me the most is, like I said before, I always have that in my head. And if I'm in a situation, I can immediately go, what's the closest thing I can get right now in my guardrails? Right. And
Right.
it hasn't done me wrong yet. So I'm doing pretty good with that. And Mary says, thank you for sharing your sibling story, say Stacy. It's very relatable. And Apple also says, Stacy, your theory makes sense. Thanks for sharing. Our brains do change and neuroplasticity is real. That's true, I mean, I think a prime example of that is, if you've been heavy before and as you lose weight, you can't really realize you're losing weight. I have people tell me all the time how much thinner I look. Like Stacy tells me all the time how thin my face is looking. I look in the mirror and I don't see that. I won't get rid of some of my bigger clothes because I'm afraid that what if I need them? Like it's real, right? I mean, our brains are constantly battling us in this whole thing. And
Yeah.
TS says, wow, Stacy, that story is so true. Thank you for sharing. And Betsy says, hi, everyone. I will forever feel as if this is a great leap of faith and so worth taking that leap. Trust the process. It really works. It's trial and error for sure, but it is worth it. And it's true. It is. And you know, do trust the process. We have a question from Video 1000 Nights. The question is, advice for people that lose 1/3 of their total goal and get to a number, then seem to gain back the first third versus lose the next 2/3 of their goal over and over. So they get to the first part, then they're stuck. They never seem to get to the second part, and this happens over and over and over again.
Yes. So likely what is happening is that once you get down, let's just use real numbers for a second. And I can't do a third, a third, a third. Okay, you guys, math is not my strong suit. So just follow me on these numbers I'm giving you. Okay. So let's say you are a woman who begins at 180 pounds and you can lose 20 pounds. And so now you're 160 pounds. But every time you get down to 160, you can't get any further. And you don't know why, because you haven't necessarily changed anything. So you're going, okay, well, I'm just going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it. And you stick with it, but week after week, you're not losing any more weight. And so then you get discouraged and you start to feel like, what is even the point? Or you start to feel like you've been depriving yourself for so long and you're not getting any results. So you go out on a weekend bender and you get all your favorite foods, and that starts a cascade of bad eating that is really hard to halt, right? Tale as old as time, folks. I did it myself a million times. So what that is, guys, is that after you've lost 20 pounds, like we mentioned earlier, your body is automatically burning fewer calories because you are a smaller, lighter person. It's that simple, okay? And so when you hit a calorie equilibrium, meaning you are burning the same number of calories that you're consuming, you will not lose weight. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're eating only fruits and vegetables, or you're eating keto, or you're eating donuts, or you're eating potatoes. If you are at a calorie equilibrium, you will not lose weight any further, okay? So what needs to happen is your 160-pound self needs to change something to get you back into a calorie deficit. And your options are two. You can change the food or change your energy output. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a third option. You can do both. Okay? All right. The third one is the one I recommend. Spoiler alert. Okay? But by and large, if you aren't able to change your energy output, like let's say you're already exercising regularly and you really don't have the space or time in your life or desire to increase your exercise, it can be done with only food. Okay, but this is how you have to do it. You have to take in fewer calories. How do we take in fewer calories? Well, the conventional wisdom that's out there and every diet is based on is eat less. Eat less, move more. Eating less never worked for anybody, not long term. It's very hard to sustain. Are there people who are able to do it? Yes, there are, but they are like unicorns, okay? It's not most people. So we don't want you eating less, because eating less assumes that you're going to be eating under your hunger drive. And eating under your hunger drive is self-sabotage. And you will not win against that. Why? Because your biological drive for survival will win every time. If your brain, your body perceives that it's not going to get the calories that it needs, it will skyrocket your appetite. It will skyrocket your cravings, your crankiness. It will drop your energy level so you're exhausted and overwhelmed, You'll be sleeping poorly. You'll be living poorly. It is not good. All the effects that can happen from eating under your hunger drive, okay? So, since we know we cannot trick our survival instinct, we have to work with it. And the way that you work with it, the only real answer is to lower the overall calorie density of your food that you intake each day, okay? And the way that you do that is you increase your non-starchy veggies, potentially increase your fruit intake, and you decrease the volume of starches. So in the end, you get the same amount of food and possibly actually even more volume-wise. You could even be taking in more food, but because you've tipped the scales a little bit and you're taking in more of those lower calorie density items like non-starchy veggies and fruit, you're taking in fewer of the slightly more calorie dense foods like all of your starches, then you're tipping the scales in a way that your total calorie intake for the day naturally comes down. That's how that works. It's the principles of calorie density that we use to our advantage to get weight loss going again. So let's say we get weight loss going again, okay? You followed Stacy's advice and the McDougall advice, and you are now 160 pounds, but you're starting to see movement on the scale again because you've increased your fruits and veggies, you've decreased your starches, you've made sure you don't have other stuff sneaking in like nuts and nut butters, which are super high in calorie density and will keep you overweight forever, okay? Okay, and so the scale is moving again, and you lose another 10 pounds, and now you're 150 pounds. But that's still, let's say, for example, that's 25 pounds up from where you ideally want to be. And you stop losing again. Same exact thing. Although you will do the same thing, you will adjust your calorie density, your overall calorie density of your food, but at some point along the way, it is likely you will also need to increase your movement, your activity. And what I recommend is add in to whatever you're already doing another 20 to 30 minute walk every day. So begin to start a habit of habitually going after dinner for a 30-minute walk. Even if you did your weight training or your running or your aerobics class or your water aerobics or whatever earlier in the day, adding in that 20 to 30-minute walk in the evening could burn more calories, so allow you to get back in that calorie deficit without supercharging your appetite. That's why walking is such a great thing to add in, because walking doesn't usually make us exceptionally more hungry. And so you're less likely to have the cravings and have the, binge episodes and things like that, as opposed to someone who goes, oh, I'm just going to start running 10 more miles a day. Your appetite is going to increase substantially if you begin a brand new running regimen, as opposed to walking, probably not that much.
Oh, that used to happen to me. Like we would go way before Starch Solution stuff. Like we would go to the Y and we would do stuff, or we would take one of those like classes, and then I would just be so hungry when we left there. Like I would just be starving, and if I tried to eat before I went, then it never really did any good. I would burn through it, but also sometimes if I worked out too much, I'd get kind of nauseous and stuff. So I would always try to wait, not eat before, wait to eat after. But then when I was waiting to eat after, I was just mowing through food because then I was so hungry from just all that exertion. And it took me a long time to figure out how that was impacting things. But yeah, just the walking, like, I mean, even if you can just walk 15 minutes, makes a huge difference. It really does. And for those of you who are worried about your sugar spiking, take a 15-minute walk after you eat. You will be
Absolutely.
amazed at how it just goes bloop.
Mm-hmm.
It just,
It's one of the best things you can do. Yes.
yep, absolutely. Apple says, I'm glad we get to hear from Stacy regularly. It helps. I recently started focusing on the Starch Solution and eating very simply. I gained some weight while grieving a death in my family. I'm full of hope and feel great eating simple starchy meals. Not really a question, just a thank you for this community. And she also states, I know this works because I lost a lot of weight many years ago eating this way and have maintained it other than this latest very reasonable and understandable weight gain. And Mary says, I really appreciate Stacy's clear, practical, and caring explanations. Very evident she is highly experienced with real people and real concerns.
Thank you.
Susan has responded, so we can pop back over to Susan's question. Susan says, I can't eat beans because I get a major bowel problem that requires me to stay close to a bathroom. With corn, I feel nauseous. All right, now you got something to work with.
Absolutely, I do. That's exactly what I needed, Susan. Thank you. So your major bowel problem could be a totally normal response to a great increase in your fiber intake. Now, you may be thinking, what's the big deal? I just started eating like half a cup of beans. That's like nothing. And you're right, that's not a ton, but it is a ton on a digestive tract that is not accustomed to that volume of beans. It is really tough for some people to transition to regularly eating beans. So, what I tell my patients, this may sound ridiculous to you, and trust me, I understand, but this is real, okay? You may need to increase your bean intake by 1 tablespoon at a time. 1 tablespoon. Okay, so what I would recommend is go back to 0. No beans. Okay, so we're starting fresh. We're assuming that this major bowel problem is actually just a normal adjustment to this high fiber content that beans have. So go back to 0, take in a tablespoon of beans. You eat a tablespoon of beans every day for like 4 or 5 days, maybe 6, maybe a whole week. All right. And then you can increase that by an additional tablespoon. And you let your body chew on that for a couple of weeks every day. 2 tablespoons of beans. And I'm really serious. If you can increase in this very slow, stepwise fashion, you give your body the opportunity to adjust. The other issue, besides the fact that it's a major hit to your gut in the fiber department, is that beans are very very specific in terms of there are specific gut microbes that like beans. And if you haven't been eating beans very much for most of your life, you may not have very many of those gut microbes. And so you need to give your gut microbiome time to reproduce that particular strain of bacteria that really loves and really digests beans very well. And that takes time. So when you're sitting there increasing by a tablespoon, you may be thinking, this is absurd. It's not even that much fiber. It's not this, that, and the other. Just remember, it's not just the fiber. It's the fiber plus having enough of the gut microbes that digestion becomes easier. Now, some people say, well, how long will it be till I don't have gas anymore? I'm still waiting. Okay. I've been eating this way for 8 years, and I'm just here to tell you beans cause gas. And what I would encourage you to do is begin to accept that as a part of being a really healthy human. And it is a positive and good thing. Please know when you have gas from beans, it is good and positive. That means that you have some very happy gut microbes in there. And guess what? They're the good guys. They're the ones you want to reproduce. You want them lining every square inch of your bowel, okay? They do all the good stuff for you. So accept the gas. Now, if you're having things like diarrhea or incontinence or like pain, lots of pain, that again is just a signal that you need to go back, start all over, and introduce and work up very slowly.
I got a funny story for you guys talking about being a little bit vulnerable. So,
please.
And this was back before I ate vegan. I was eating kind of mostly vegetarian around this time, but I wasn't eating vegan yet. and Kathy was working on some cheese stuff, trying to figure out some recipes and things like that. And I had started increasing my bean intake because I was eating more and more, getting closer and closer to that line of being full on vegan. And I was eating a lot of bean dishes and stuff like beans and rice and things like that because I was eating more vegetarian too. So she was working on this one recipe where she made cheese out of white beans, and I thought it was delicious. And I may have went a little crazy watching TV one night with eating like cheese and crackers, and I don't think that it registered for me that she had made that cheese out of beans. And I mean, the next 24 hours, I couldn't go anywhere or do anything without, because I would have just absolutely embarrassed myself. It was like to the point where I couldn't even bend over and tie my shoes without gas, right? I mean, it was just so horrible. But as I ate more beans, as I got used to that fiber level, I started really getting to where, I still sometimes will get gassy. Like, it's natural from the beans. And but I agree with Jeremy. Jeremy says that it doesn't smell nearly as bad once your gut is working well, and I really feel like that's the case too. I feel like then at that point it's really not that bad. So just
Right.
give yourself time. Do what Stacy said, and just little bits at a time, and you'll get there. You
Yeah.
really will.
One other quick little piece of advice around this is, if you're still struggling at all, make beans a part of your evening meal, your nighttime meal, so that you eat them and then you go to bed. And so you and your family aren't necessarily nearly as bothered by what the ramifications of your bean intake. And then in the morning, the goal would be that those beans have been working their way through your intestines, and then you have a nice, big, huge, satisfying bowel movement in the morning, and it
Yep.
works out really well.
Yeah, I don't know how I lived before I actually had lots of fiber. I don't know how I functioned as a human being. Like, I don't know. I just can't. I try to think back on that time, and I mean, I was always like this. Well, I've only went to the bathroom once in the past 2 days. I'm just like winning. Like, and then I realized it's like I am not winning. I am
No.
actually really not winning. And as I started eating more and more stuff that was good for me, that had lots of fiber, now I'm like a 2-3 times a day person, and I'm like, hey, we're good. I think it's amazing just how fiber can change things so incredibly much.
Yeah.
Just even a little bit of it.
Yes. Right. And we have a long, very long digestive tract,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff is not meant to hang around in there,
Right.
which is why you see increase, partially why you see an increase in cases of colon cancer in younger and younger people. As we increase our intake of meat and animal products and processed foods and super sugary drinks, what's happening is our food is staying in our gut and fermenting and sort of like breaking down in our gut in a very problematic way and producing chemical substances that are known carcinogens in our gut. When you are eating a very high fiber diet and you're keeping things moving, you are greatly lowering your risk of any of those digestive cancers or other digestive issues. And so, yes, we're all grown adults here. I'm presuming that all of us here listening are grown adults. It's time to eat your fiber and prioritize fiber. Everybody's so worried about protein. Trust me when I tell you, you need to focus on fiber. Number one, how can I get more fiber into this meal that I'm eating right now? And not the kind of fiber that you open a can and scoop a spoonful into your cup of water. We're talking about real plant fiber that comes with vitamins and nutrients and antioxidants and lots of other beneficial compounds. So real food, real whole plant food is the answer for this.
Absolutely. Susan says, you are the first person who I can relate to about the brain as it relates to my hunger drive. I almost never leave food behind. I just don't get a full feeling or I don't recognize the feeling. I think
Yeah.
that's a very common issue for most people. I didn't recognize like when I was full. It took me like a long time even doing this program when we first started. Like I didn't recognize when I was full. I would question whether I was full or not, and I would ask Stacy crazy questions like I think I was still hungry, so I had another bowl of rice because I wasn't sure if I was still hungry. And then, we figured out we'll just sit with it for a little bit and see if I'm still hungry. So kind of,
Right.
but it was weird because I really couldn't tell if I was hungry or not. And now I know the second that I've pushed it too far. And also like I have learned, and this has been the hardest thing because food equals money. I mean, let's just get down to the basics. Food equals money. And none of us want to waste money, right? And so when we push that plate away and there's still stuff on it, we feel like we've just wasted a bunch of money. And a lot of us have that mentality that it's like, well, I have to eat everything on my plate because I don't want to waste money. Once I learned that it was okay to push the plate away and leave what was on the plate and walk away, my life changed. Like I wasn't getting that after I eat going, oh, I ate too much anymore. Like I wasn't doing that. I'm human. Every so often I get there. But I mean, for the most part, once I learned to just push that plate away and say, I've hit the wall, I'm done. And I do it now, like very dramatically. Hit the wall. Just stop, right? And it has been very, very beneficial to be able to do that. And let's see, TS says, oh no, Cheryl, thank you for sharing. I discovered that certain beans cause issues for me, and I make sure to rinse my no salt canned beans, and it helps a little. Yeah, I just think that we've tried lots of those different, there's like every ethnicity has some kind of thing that they do to help the beans. We've done it all. And, I don't really see much difference in my intake. So
I was
I
going to
think
say the same thing. I've tried all the different ways, soaking, not soaking, I think it's baking soda and, all kinds of
yeah.
stuff. I didn't notice any difference between them, but if it helps you, by all means, stick with it. That's great.
Oh, let's see. And Video 1000 Nights says, does Stacy think zero exceptions is ideal or occasionally enjoy healthy-ish vegan foods once in a while like crackers or eating off the menu at a vegan restaurant occasionally?
I don't think that 100% strict adherence to no oil and no animal products is necessary to get good results. Now, having said that, I do think that approaching it with the mindset of no exceptions is beneficial, especially at the beginning, while you are trying to get your booty out of the pleasure trap. I think if you are deep in the pleasure trap, and many of you know what I'm talking about, it's like the pleasure trap foods, which are the calorie rich and processed foods, highly palatable foods, are calling your name, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks in between. If you are experiencing that, any of the effects of the pull of the pleasure trap, I do think you need to be vigilant about sticking with the plan and no exceptions. It's just not graceful to tell yourself, I'm going to be 100% except I'm going to have like, this vegan version of something that really calls to me, once a week. It's just very hard to fully get out of that craving cycle that the pleasure trap causes unless you stick with some pretty hard boundaries. Also, boundaries like I'm going to eat no animal products and no oil, they help because they take away some of the fatiguing mental acrobatics that we do when we keep things as an option. I'll give you an example. If you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to stick with it 100% of the time, except, on occasion, I can have, a vegan meat substitute from time to time for fun. Or on occasion, I can go out to eat and get something that maybe has oil in it or whatever. Then if you've given yourself that leeway, then you always are having to have the conversation. Well, is today the day that I can have some tofurkey? Is this weekend the time that I can go out to eat and get like a vegan cheeseburger? Or what about now? Can I do it now? And what about this cereal right here? Like, technically it's compliant, but it's not what I said I was going to do, but I am giving myself some. So it's just like constant mental gymnastics around, can I eat it? Can I not? Whereas if you give yourself a hard line that is clear, concise, and appropriate, it eliminates a lot of decision fatigue. And decision fatigue will get you in trouble, because the more decisions you have to make about your food, the more likely you are to screw it up.
Yeah. I think sometimes my laziness in the kitchen is the only thing that has saved me. Just because I'm like, go to the freezer, and if there's something in there, and I'll be like, oh, that would be really nice. And then I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to cook that. I don't have time to cook that. That just seems like too much trouble. And then I just go eat some beans and rice. So it's like, I just, it's just a thought. I mean, everyone knows I just do not like the kitchen. Um, TS says, Stacy, if your sons are like mine, then the extra gas produced can let them entertain themselves and sometimes their friends. Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Yes.
And Apple says, fiber fueled by Will Bolsewicz.
Bolsewicz. Yeah,
I think, is a fantastic book.
it is.
And Susan says, thank you for the bean advice. I'm going to implement the slow introduction. You totally stated my exact situation. And thank you so much. I'm excited to try this method.
Great.
And Teresa
Good.
says, the only way out of the pleasure trap is through. Stacy Cross has told me this more times than I care to admit.
Yeah. The only way out is through. What that means is the only way out. People are like, oh, I'm so deep in the pleasure trap, or I've gotten back into some bad eating habits. How do I get out? Again, that's back to the question of how as opposed to doing. And the answer to how is you just do it. And you stick with it. And what happens is people get off plan and suddenly they have a taste for the old yummy foods again. Which is interesting, because if you've been following your plan for any length of time, you sort of lose your desire for those things. But, be that as it may, when we reintroduce those things, suddenly we have a taste for them again. Woo, cake is really yummy and I want that now. So the only way out is to completely eliminate it. Totally don't mess with it at all whatsoever. And there are going to be days where your body is going, wait a second, we were getting cake every day for a week now, and now we're not. And we're going to scream and cry and throw a darn, toddler temper tantrum about this, because we want those calories. They are good for our survival. See? And the only way through that is to just white knuckle it. But what I do not want you ever, ever, ever doing is limiting your portion sizes of the good foods. So part of what makes it tolerable to get through those first early days, and it's usually only like 3 to 5 days of really gritting your teeth and white knuckling it through those cravings. The only thing that makes that slightly more tolerable is to eat plenty of the good, healthy foods. Mm-hmm. If you're limiting your portion sizes at the same time as you're trying to get out of the pleasure trap, it ain't going to work. You're going to succumb to cravings, because hunger is powerful, and you will only win so far against your hunger if you're denying yourself the amount of food that your body is asking for.
Yeah, Anne is saying if having that one piece yesterday and one bite today and a bit tomorrow to, oh well, screw it, don't have none of it, especially now all the holidays and free food available in stores. And I,
Yes, absolutely. I want to share that this will be like the seventh year in a row or something, or maybe fifth year in a row that I've made the decision about Halloween candy. Now, when I say it's 5 years in a row or 7 years or however many years it's been, there have been a couple years in there where I made this decision and I didn't stick with it. So the decision that I made many years ago was, hey, you know what? You can't trick me. Halloween candy is just regular candy in a black and orange wrapper. Okay? So a Snicker bars at Halloween is the same as a Snicker bar the whole other 11 months of the year. They just put it in a black and orange wrapper. There is nothing special about Halloween candy. Now, when Thanksgiving rolls around, excuse me, and my mother-in-law makes her famous pecan pie, that is special. I will eat that because it's special. She doesn't make it the other 11 months of the year, and I only can get it at Thanksgiving. And so I'm going to enjoy it. But Halloween candy is not special. So the decision I made many years ago is I don't eat Halloween candy out of principle. It's almost like a silent protest to the candy industry. Like, hey, I won't be tricked. I won't be tricked. And I know for me, if I eat none, I will be perfectly fine. I will totally enjoy the season. I will not feel deprived, and I will feel great if I eat exactly 0 pieces of Halloween candy. For me, if I eat that first piece, it's over. I begin to eat my way through the rest of Halloween and make myself miserable and gain 5 pounds and regret that first piece. So the answer for me is none. I don't eat Halloween candy. It's totally fine. I don't miss anything because all of those things are available to me all the time.
yeah, that makes sense. Like a lot of times we'll tell ourselves something's really special because it's a holiday or something like that. And yeah, it makes sense that it really isn't. It's just wrapped in a different wrapper. So, makes sense. Traylon has a question. Uh, I have to log everything into Chronometer or I'll overeat. What are the optimal macros for the McDougall program?
No, 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 no. Red flag after red flag after red flag. Listen, that is not true. That is what the diet industry has told you. That if you don't keep track of everything in Chronometer, you will overeat. You are not a robot. You are not a wild animal with no ability to reason or follow logic or any of those things. You overeat because the foods that you're eating are so enticing and so full of salt, oil, and sugar that you don't have an off button because those foods are not natural. They're not anything that your ancestors would have ever run into. A Twinkie or a stack of pancakes with maple syrup on them or, French fries from McDonald's or whatever. You overeat those foods because they are hyper palatable and hyper stimulating. And your brain, whose only job is to keep you alive, and doesn't really have any frame of reference for heart disease and diabetes and stroke and all that because nobody ever lived that long before, is going, we need more of that food because that is survival food. That's highly dense in calories. So we get our biggest bang from our buck when you keep eating candy bars and French fries and macaroni and cheese. Because that is going to give us extra calories, extra fat that we can store on our body. That's a good thing. So your brain and your hunger and fullness mechanisms are hijacked by the modern food environment. That's why you feel like you have to track in order to not gain weight. Because all of those foods that I just mentioned, yeah, you can easily overeat them in 2 seconds. But if you are eating fruits and vegetables and water-rich cooked starches primarily, and you are limiting your intake of salty, sugary, and super tasty condiments and dressings and sauces, then you are going to very naturally eat in a calorie equilibrium or calorie deficit for weight loss. And you don't need to track and weigh and measure your food at all. We do not have a recommended macro breakdown. We do not. Now, we do recommend that you eat a naturally low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet. And that's because that's what this is. It's whole plant starches, fruits, and vegetables, which will naturally put you in a low-fat, high-carbohydrate, and moderate protein macro breakdown.
That's awesome. It's always a good reminder to me to hear you say that too, because I always have to remind myself that before I did the starch solution, I would try to combine all these different kinds of weight loss programs, and then I could never figure out why they weren't working. And it was because I wasn't just keeping it down to low fat, moderate carb, right? I was high fat this day and low carb this day, and then just doing it all, it didn't work until you just pick one and you do it for a while and stick to it for a while, and then it all starts to work out. Trust the process, as Stacy says.
Yes.
Wendy Cunningham says, I love your candy protest, Stacy. And Susan Richardson says, the money analogy to food just hit me now. Powerful. My childhood was a eat everything in front of you because there are people starving who can't afford enough food. Yeah, well, if, you know, I think everybody my age and older, or even slightly younger, all got that. You know, there's people in X country starving and you need to make sure you finish all your food kind of thing. And then we're at very vulnerable ages when we're younger for those things to like imprint, right? So now
absolutely
every day you're being told you have to eat all your food because there are people who can't afford food. And then it imprints on your brain, and so it stays back there no matter how hard you try to like deviate away from that. Still in the back of your head sometimes you're like, but I don't want to waste that money. Or I'm being selfish because there's people who can't even eat this. Like, right? So it's hard. Our brains are very powerful, and sometimes we don't always have control over what they imprint on back there. So let's see. Video 1000 Nights says, if I can eat a cup of dried brown rice after it is cooked, it is much more than a cup. After adding veggies seasoned, and I'm not sure what ACV is. Am I eating apple cider vinegar? Yeah. Am I eating too much?
Well, let me just say, first of all, that what Kathy just did was the ultimate wife move, where you act like you are 100% not listening. You are not in the conversation. You may not even be in the room, but somehow your wife radar goes up and you're like, apple cider vinegar.
She is listening.
It's hilarious.
She is listening. She's trying to get through editing. She's working on the new book, and
yes,
it is now up to 170 recipes.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
She had it up to 180 and decided to take a couple out, and I think she's going to stay there for a bit. So, we got a release date of the 31st on that. So we are in the final push and the final getting everything prepared thing. So very busy around
exciting.
Here.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Very exciting. That was just amazing how she chimed in. That was awesome. So to get back to Video 1000 Nights' question about if I eat Okay, so a cup of brown rice, which will produce approximately 2 cups of rice cooked. Once it is cooked in water, it'll be approximately 2 cups of brown rice. And then you add veggies and you season it with apple cider vinegar. And the question is, am I eating too much? It depends, babe. Hey, everybody, huddle in. Y'all need to listen to this and get this in your heads. Nobody outside of your body can tell you if you're eating too much or you're not. Nobody, not even expert Stacy. No, I can't. Why? Because it's dependent on so many different factors. Your height, your age, your weight, your activity level, what time you go to bed, what time you wake up, how busy you are during the day, how fidgety you are, what your personality is like. I mean, a million different factors play into how much you should or shouldn't eat. But guess who knows how much you should or shouldn't eat? Your body. Your body can be trusted to tell you if that is too much food for you or it is not. So, what I would recommend you do if you think you might be overdoing it, meaning you eat that dish and you're like, well, I'm full. All right, next time I want you to eat, make the same amount, okay? Make the same amount and then split it into 2 servings. So eat half of it. Eat half of it. Go ahead and put the other half in a little container and stick it in your fridge, okay? And then eat that food. Go very slowly because a lot of times people are seeking the enjoyment of eating. And so if we rush through it, then we don't get as enjoyable of an eating experience. So prolong it as much as you can. Turn off your phone, turn off your TV and your computer and everything, and focus just on the enjoyment of eating that meal and go slowly. Savor the meal. Eat it, drink your water, have your complete meal, and then go on with your life. Okay? So let's say you go and you return some emails, like, and you listen to a video on YouTube or whatever, and then do a check back in with yourself about half an hour later and go, how do I feel? Do I need the other half of my food? If the answer is yes, go back and get some more. If the answer is no, then there's your answer. So oftentimes it's very easy for us to blow past fullness because we've never bothered to try eating a little bit less and seeing how we feel. Because it does take most of us about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to register fullness. And so we got to give our bodies time to do that. Now, if you don't want to run this experiment, that's fine too. The question though is, are you getting the weight loss results that you are seeking? And if the answer is no, then yeah, you're at a calorie equilibrium. And we've got to figure out why. Is it too many rice and veggies? Probably not. You probably have something else in that is the problem, which is like peanut butter on toast or late night, handful of nuts or dried fruit or lots of liquid calories, or on the weekends, you always fall off the rails. Those are usually the culprit. It's usually not that you're eating too much brown rice and vegetables seasoned with apple cider vinegar, because most people are not going to overeat that meal.
Oh, sorry, I'm over here nodding my head saying yeah, and I wasn't even on the, on the right screen. Yeah. So Traylon says, thank you for the explanation. It makes sense. I need to stay away from the delicious sauces like Japanese barbecue sauce. Those are what make me overeat. And Traylon is the one that was asking about the macros. So, and Susan Richardson says, I feel like this live chat is speaking to me in every way. It touched so many issues I was having that I wasn't aware. This is a life-changing live chat for me. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad that we can help you. And this is one of the reasons why we love to bring Stacy on, because, a lot of times we can all sit here and talk about this stuff all day long, but when you have that aha moment, it is very life-changing. And, sometimes you just, I don't know, there's a rule. I don't know, Stacy, if you remember that. You have to hear something like 3 times or something like that before it sticks. And
Yeah.
so, the more we talk about this and the more you listen to it, the more it's going to stick, right?
Definitely.
And TS said, I also loved your analogy, Stacy. Apple's laughing about Kathy chiming in. Let's see. My parents grew up with beans and rice and maybe some meat, then war rations. I still have some war rations stickers. I grew up on Kool-Aid, TV dinners, and dime candy. Yep. And let's see. TS says, this has been such an enlightened episode. And Video 1000 Nights was asking, can I also eat a cup? And the thing is, I cannot anymore. I could in the beginning, but I can't eat a cup anymore because I get full before I even get done with that.
Do you mean a cup of dry rice cooked?
Yeah. Like,
is that what she's asking?
Yeah, I believe so. That was in the previous question that she asked. So I'm like, no, not anymore. Now that in the beginning, like I would make at least 4 cups of rice every day for both of us. Usually at the end of the day, we would have some left for lunch the next day, but not very much because I was really going through it for every meal that I was having. So, yeah, as time has went on, I find myself just eating less in general, which I think is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So I'm just trying to follow my body and listen to the cues and doing what it's asking me to do. So
for those of you who say you're having a hard time with hunger and fullness cues, the best advice I can give you is eat your food completely unseasoned and no condiments for a time, not forever. This is not like your new way of eating for the rest of your life, but maybe give it a week of no seasonings, no dressings, salt, sugar, condiments, none of it, because you will not continue to eat food that is not delicious past the point of fullness.
Right.
You'll hit it right on the head. Like, you will hit your fullness right on the head. And what you can do when you run that experiment, number one, you're going to lose weight. Like, I feel sure of it. Okay. If you're eating fruits and vegetables and water-rich cooked starches unseasoned, you're going to lose weight. But number two, what you can do is slow down and observe what fullness feels like, because fullness has feelings sensations of fullness, and they are different from person to person. Different people feel fullness differently. Likewise, people feel hunger differently. I think I've shared with you guys before, for me, when I start to get hungry, I get almost like a little aching kind of feeling back here. And I've had a couple people go, oh yeah, me too. But most people look at me like, what are you even talking about? Because that's not how they experience hunger in their body. That's fine. But I get like a little aching feeling back here, and I can tell that it's almost time to eat. That's what hunger feels like to me. Most people say it's in their stomach. They feel it in their stomach. They get growling. Sure. Yeah. But everybody's very different,
telltale
right?
grumble. It'll just do it once,
right.
And then it's like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, oh,
yeah
you.
Right. Yes. So but sometimes you are very out of touch with those sensations because you're going off of your tongue. Your tongue, with all of its taste buds, wants to taste the food and keep tasting it. And so oftentimes we're focused our attention on, and we may not even know consciously that we're doing this, but our fullness or satisfaction on our taste buds. And so if you take some of the hyper palatability out of your food by not using sauces, seasonings, and condiments and salt and sugar and all that stuff, then at least you have a fighting chance of feeling some of those other sensations that tell you that you are full. And so begin to observe that. So running a 1-week experiment is something I would recommend to virtually everyone, to get back in touch with your hunger and fullness cues by eating unadulterated foods in their whole plant form, water-rich, cooked starches, fruits, and vegetables.
And Jeremy says, Stacy, do you pass food to your husband? So like,
yes, all the time. Yep, sure do. Poor guy. He's tall and lean naturally, so he can get away with it a little better than I can. But yes, I do.
So Video 1000 Nights says 600 to 700 calories and 3 cups when cooked is what Google says. I used to be able to eat 3 cups, not at one sitting. And now I could, on a day where I'm feeling more hungry than normal, I could probably throughout the entire day eat 2 cups. But
everyone is different.
Most of the time I just, I think in the beginning I was eating about 3 cups at a serving, which was a lot. Then I just gradually pulled back because I was like, oh, I can't eat this much anymore. Oh, I can't eat this much anymore. I mean, I just started really listening. I think it's important that you really have to, like, in the beginning, look for even the slightest thing that is your body saying stop, because sometimes it's not obvious. And then once you start going, oh, hey, yesterday I felt like I ate too much. And right before I got to that point, my stomach kind of did this thing. That might be your thing.
Okay, I want to caution us against one thing real quickly. It was very subtle, so I don't know that anybody even would have picked up on it, but I want you guys to have your radar on for this kind of thing. So as Cheryl was just sharing, oh yeah, at the beginning, I used to eat probably about 3 cups of rice. She said, which is a lot. That subtle little messaging that she probably got at some point from diet mentality, that 3 cups is a lot, can be problematic, because if you are judging how much food you're eating when you are responding to your hunger and fullness cues, you are not still getting the message and trusting the process. 3 cups of rice cooked is not a lot. As with everything else, it depends on what's going on. I can tell you this, I probably eat somewhere around 2 to 3 cups of cooked oatmeal every morning, which is more than most people think is a serving. But guess what? It works out, because then I don't get hungry again till like 1 p.m. And then when I am finally hungry, I eat a small bowl of soup, and that's lunch, and I feel great. And then I have a sweet potato in the afternoon between lunch and dinner, and then I have dinner. And it works. And when I'm eating that way, I will lose weight, unless I'm trying to maintain, and then I will maintain weight. So please, please try to find the ways that you are subtly sabotaging yourself by judging the amount of food that you're eating. Because the minute that we start thinking thoughts to ourselves like, this is a lot, or this is too much, or this is bad, or whatever, in the back of your mind, you are going to begin to try to restrict, because that's the natural next step after judging yourself and judging the amount of food. The natural next step is to begin to try to restrict. And it's subtle and it's in the background. You may not even realize you're doing it. And then restriction leads to more restriction, which leads to more restriction. The pressure rises, and eventually it ends in cravings and binges. And that is how we self-sabotage ourselves, with judging the amount of food that we're eating.
Thank you. I'm glad you caught that, because I didn't even think about, like, when I said that,
right.
Yeah. Just that's how it came out. So Video 1000 Nights says that I feel like a bottomless pit sometimes, especially with good seasonings. So like you were saying, people tend to overeat if it's something that's really palatable to them. And Apple, as always, some good advice. I can easily eat a cup of dry rice after it's cooked. Big cooked, I can really pack it away. Steamed potatoes are my go-to starch because they fill me up quicker and keep me satisfied longer. And that's the thing, like different people have different things that fill them up faster, and you may not necessarily be a rice person. Like I'm totally a rice person, but Kathy is a potato person. Like potatoes fill her up faster than anything. So, we usually have both in our house.
Yes, absolutely. I want to highlight what Apple just said. I believe you said it was Apple that said that. Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm so glad she caught that. It's absolutely true. Rice does not fill me up very well. So I eat it on occasion, but it is not my main starch staple. My main starch staple is oatmeal and potatoes. Those are the two that I know work real. Oh, and beans, for sure, beans. Beans and legumes. I eat a lot of beans and legumes, a lot of potatoes, a lot of oatmeal. Okay. Rice is honestly, I probably eat rice once every couple of weeks. Not because I don't like it, but because I feel like a bottomless pit when it comes to rice. So observe yourself. It's okay if you've been eating rice this whole time and then you go, wait a minute, rice doesn't fill me up. I probably should do an about face and pick something different. Fine. Tweak and adjust as you go, and as you learn more and more about your own body, your own wonderful, glorious, beautiful body. Do not despise the things that you're learning about yourself. Love the things that you're learning about yourself, and take those to make more informed decisions in the future.
Yeah. And this leads into Jeremy's question, and I think you might have answered that. Are hunger cues best suppressed by potatoes or rice?
Totally depends on the person. Having said that, science has shown, they have studied this satiety, the satiety index. If you want to Google it and look it up, you can find out the average satiety index of any of the foods that you eat. And remember, it's population studies. And so a population study or a statistic is only applicable to the population. It does not tell you what you as an individual are going to experience. But the population studies show that potatoes are the most satiating food on the planet. Having said that, I have many patients that go, potatoes do not do it for me. And rice is my super highly satisfying starch. Perfect. So whichever one works for you. I'm one of these people. I'm the reason the population study showed that potatoes are the most satiating, because they are for sure, by a long stretch, the most filling foods for me, even more than beans.
Yeah. So we're getting on the top of the hour, and we need to let Stacy get back to work because she does have a job over there at the McDougall Starch Solution. So I just wanted to kind of like round this out, but it's something that Apple posted about when we were having the conversation just a few minutes ago. She said it's subtle and so insidious. We've been conditioned to distrust our bodies. It's sad. This way of eating is our rebel yell against diet culture. And it really is. It really, really is.
Absolutely. Getting back in touch with your body and trusting your body for the amazing, incredible, beautiful machine that it is. It is so special. And Dr. McDougall used to say all the time, your body is always trying to heal itself. And that comes all the way down to overweight. So if you are overweight, believe me, your body doesn't want you being substantially overweight, because it recognizes that you are not going to outrun the bear if you're too big, right? And so that's yet another reason to trust the hunger and fullness cues, because there will be times, I have patients all the time who go, I'm not hungry. And I go, hey, you are carrying 100 extra pounds. That is your body's way of saving your life right now. It is not making you hungry because it knows that it needs to burn off some of your fat stores. That's exactly what we're after. That's great news. If you're not hungry, don't eat. Wait till you're hungry to eat, and trust the process. Trust your beautiful body. It was created for this, and you're going to see great results.
Yep, absolutely. And so with that, everyone, I'm going to say check out the show notes if you're interested in joining the McDougall community that's just now starting up. It's a brand new thing. You can get in on that brand new and help shape that community. And Kathy's book comes out the 31st. If you're interested in that, it's on discount for a limited time only, so the information is about that in the show notes, and that is why she is not here today, because she is working on that hard. She's been day in, day out. So I'm going to feed her very shortly and keep her in water and food so she can get her stuff done. And with that, we are going to say good night, everybody, or good afternoon, everybody. Have a great